Hey, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. Well, the world continues to get interesting, doesn't it? I was just checking the news this morning uh, about all the little minions out there in Portland raising a fuss and chanting their chants and acting like they're revolutionaries, and it's very interesting. I mentioned the other day about the fact that the response of the federal authorities wasn't what a lot of people had expected. They weren't shutting down the demonstrations, the protests, the riots, and that's really what they are. And I explained a little bit about what they're really doing out there. I'm not going to get into that again, but it's interesting how this is being allowed, and it's being controlled. It's being controlled. The little rioters don't realize they're being controlled. They think they're in charge. They think it's raining on me. It's one of those kind of bright, cloudy days, But it feels good. I'll probably be wet by the time this is over. But what the heck? Anyway, all these little demonstrators and rioters and things think that they're really bringing the change, and they're not. Um, when it's time to bring the hammer down, the hammer will come down. But we will have learned a lot along the way. However, this doesn't mean that everything is going to shake out the way that we would like it to. I've talked about before that I think we're in the middle of a devolution, a devolving of society. I believe that that's true. How we're going to come out the other end is the only question because, well, the reason that it's happening is we're just too split. Our country is not. We do not share a united system of values anymore, and so when people are so split on what they believe in, um, with half of us now believing not us, not those of us who are watching this, with half of the people who have been given citizenship in the United States by birth or other reason, believe in essentially Marxism, or if they don't, they're useless idiots that are following, useful idiots, as other people say, following along, and they're going to try to facilitate this. There's no way to come back into a unified country. Anyway, what I want to talk about today is fighting back, because that's what's going to be important. It's going to be important as to how we come out this other side, and it's actually part of the preparation. I talked the other day about talked about what would happen in the suburbs, and a little bit about what had happened when a group came out here, a BLM, that's not Bureau of Land Management, group came out to the suburbs thinking they were going to bring it to us, following their chants down in the city of, we're going to burn this down and then we're coming for you, you suburban softies, who don't know anything. Well, I talked a little bit about what happened when they tried that. They came out and they got off of the main street and they went into a residential area, and our police came and shut them down. But a little bit more information has come out of that. Our police department has released some body cam footage that gave the background to what led up to that, and I think that that's very interesting. That this group of people, and it was brought here by some people who don't live around here, and they were gonna make their point. They had a nice. The police had a pretty polite but straight talk with them before they started. Said stay on the sidewalks. Don't block any traffic. The First Amendment is alive and well in our city here. However, you will do it according to municipal code and common courtesy, and don't bother people. Well, of course they agreed to all that, and then they went down and then they walked off into a residential neighborhood, and they had bullhorns and they were screaming, Black Lives Matter, and they were going up into people's yards, and um, they were yelling defund the police. Well, they're actually yelling defund the police. Uh, and and you know what happened before the police came? Well, residents, those soft suburbanites that everybody, you know, chuckles at so much, they came out of their houses and they confronted these people and they said, "What in the world are you doing here? Get out of here. You have no business here. This is a quiet neighborhood. Don't come out and disturb us because we call the police around here." And of course, there were words exchanged, but the citizens themselves stood up, went outside their house, and confronted these people. And then the police came. Okay. And when the organizers tried to intimidate them, like they had been taught they could intimidate police down in the city, because not because the police were intimidated, but because their political leaders were intimidated by these crowds, and that includes their command staff. Um, they thought they could intimidate them out here, and guess what happened? The leader found himself face down on the asphalt, being cuffed, and then taken off to jail along with his wife, who thought she could interject herself in there screaming and hollering. And off they went, and the demonstration stopped. The lesson here is to stand up and fight. The best time to stand up against an attack, and that's what these things are. And if I'm not sure if I mentioned it here on YouTube or not, but over on Patreon, when we go through the series of combatives and martial skills, I talk about the time to stop an attack is right now. Okay, you don't absorb a lot of punches and a lot of an assault before you decide that it is time to respond. And the same thing goes for this. When these groups, that they're growing simply because nobody is standing up to them effectively. You know, and I think I mentioned, and I don't know whether it was here on Patreon. It's kind of like an active shooter situation. When I teach active shooter, um, I explain to the people, and a lot of people don't know this, that the active shooter, you know, they will go into a target-rich but soft target. Okay, and what that means, a lot of people there who can't defend themselves, and almost every one of them occurs in a restricted gun area. You know, no guns allowed. So surprise, surprise, that didn't keep the active shooter from bringing his in, did it? But somehow these people will never learn that the best invitation for an active shooter is to post a no guns zone little sign on their place. And while the good folks are leaving theirs at home, the bad folks know that nobody's going to be able to come up against them. So in they go, and pretty much the same is happening with us. So anyway, to back up, I explained that almost all active shooter situations are concluded at the first contact with resistance, with effective resistance. And very often that is not the police. Very often, in the case of an active shooter, it's an armed citizen. In other cases, it's an unarmed citizen, okay, who simply, or a group of unarmed people who decide, well, you know what, we're not going to die today. And they will respond and go after this active shooter, and he will either, and many times, he'll just kill himself. Because their desire is not to fight. Their desire is to destroy others. And it's pretty much the same with these groups that are out here today. Their desire, because you look at the makeup of these crowds, and you can, like I said in the other one, the government is identifying the leaders. That's part of the reason these things are being allowed to go on. They're studying, and they are studying the dynamics of these different groups and what they're bringing to these things, and it is being controlled. And finally, when they've learned what they want to learn, they'll start throwing these people in jail or do other things with them. And well, those are just other things. Um, so it just like with responding immediately to an active shooter, responding immediately to this idiocy out here is very important, and it's going to do two things. Whether it, and this isn't just if they come out and try to demonstrate or protest in your neighborhood, although it does apply to that. It applies to the micro situations as well. Your conversations with people. Um, so if when they come out here and they think they were going to have their way out in this neighborhood, they found out very quickly, no, they're not going to, and they shut them down. And you know what? We haven't heard much out of them since. We haven't heard them. We've heard a few complaints. Oh, it was unfair, and we were peaceful. Well, when you're disturbing my peace, that's not peaceful. Um, but it goes for the smaller situations too, and we've talked about this before. That the steamrolling of these Marxist issues seem to be um, just driving the social agenda all around us. I was talking to a guy the other day. He was at work and he said, there were a bunch of them talking about some of these social issues, and and most of them, and I don't know how many were there, quite a few, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10, I don't know. There were a bunch of them there who all held the same um, opinions, social, traditional opinions, values and standards and things like that, of a conservative bent. And that simply means traditional, really. And they were talking about some of this stuff that's been going on, but there was one person around there who they knew had a separate political feeling. And all of this whole group had to whisper and keep their opinions to themselves while this person was around for fear of being reported, having some discipline, occur at their job, or maybe even losing their jobs. Now that's stone cold idiocy. Okay, when one person who probably couldn't explain the reasons for their feelings other than some emotional response to what they've heard going on in the world, can shut down a whole bunch of people who are informed, who are responsible people, who uh, are really the bedrock of what built and is holding our country together. Can shut down all those people. You can't talk at work. My suggestion is this: start responding. Start responding immediately and to the extent that is necessary to have an effect. Okay, when we talk about this in responding to physical attacks, we talk about that our response should be sudden, explosive, directed, and effective. Now, I don't, say that your response should be explosive, but it should be immediate. It's not something that you go, gosh, I can't believe they say that. What should I say? And I'm going to go back and talk to them about. No, it needs to be immediate. If somebody comes up with some idiotic statement, you call them on it. You say, why do you think that? Why exactly do you think that? And then when they start going off on all these emotional tangents that don't prove anything, they're just, well, meet those with some facts. Okay. Um, I heard somebody, well, I won't even get into that because that's going to go down a long rabbit hole. But most of these people won't be able to explain why they believe what they believe. And if you call them on it, a couple of things probably going to happen. You're going to start to shut them down because they will realize they don't have a free fire zone. They'll realize I can't just come in here and say anything I want to and shut down all these other people. I can't control everybody else in here because they're afraid of my hurt feelings, and maybe I'll go down and get them in trouble. Okay, or the fact that I'm offended over some make-believe social situation. And secondly, you'll give cover to others who agree with you. And then others who may not have expressed their opinion will see that you have, and they will gravitate towards you, and they will want to, and you'll be forming a unified group that hopefully, if you hold together, you'll be able to have a effective response to this stuff. So I suggest that. When I I used to be accused of, when I was younger, of having a short fuse on things, and I would correct him. I plead guilty, but I actually would correct him. I says I really don't have a short fuse. I essentially have no fuse. If somebody brings something to me, it's, hey, no waiting. Let's get it on. Let's have at this. You know. I've mellowed out a little bit, and as I've gotten older, but some people will say not much. Um, but I don't see any reason to. If somebody brings something against you, the time to stand up against it is then. And don't allow it to be a drive-by situation. Don't just make a response and say, well, such and such and such and such, and then walk off. Stand your ground. Hold it there, right there. If they want to come back at you again, that's fine. Hey, we can keep counterpunching all day long. Okay, but what we need to show these people that are destroying our society, and and are pretty much given free rein by too many people who won't stand up. We need to show them some resistance, just like people show those active shooters resistance. Resistance is the key. So the time to fight now. The time to resist now. Back them up on their heels. We also have a saying that it's hard to punch when you're blocking. When you're busy blocking punches, it's hard to get a punch in of your own. So, if you're just always trying to block things, well, you're on the defense, and defense, I don't know, I guess they say in football the defense wins games. Well, defense doesn't win a fight. And what you need to do is turn that around and put these people, and I am not saying to go out there and beat people up. Okay. What I'm saying is keep them defending their position so much that I tell you what, they'll get worn down, because I've done it and I've seen it. It doesn't take a lot. These people think they're pretty special, but they are not. They're about as deep as a gutter stream. You know. So anyway, think about that. Spread that around. Share it with your friends. Share this video. Send it out to some people and say, we got to stop being quiet, and we have to stop taking it. We have to stop just kind of walking away when these things are brought up, because that is so. We teach people how to treat us, and if somebody offends us or says or whatever, and we don't respond and we don't tell them to stop, we're teaching them they can do that, and that's essentially what's happened with this mess that we're going through today. So let's stand up and teach these people. No, I'm sorry, you can't do that. You can't come to our neighborhoods and raise Cain. You cannot come up to me and be offensive to me. You cannot throttle my speech or keep me from expressing a valid opinion in my life. It's just not going to happen. And if you want to scrap, let's scrap. And I think that's all I'll say. But probably have more to say about this on another one, because things keep happening, which means we have to keep responding. But like I always say on the things, we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. Well, preparing well does not mean just hunkering down and avoiding necessarily a fight. And that's what too many people think. It's not just avoiding a fight. It's coming back and compromising the attack of those who are coming against you. So let's settle them down. Let's start settling these people down a little bit, and just with our just with our logic, just with our facts, just with our information. But they have to stop having a free fire zone in our world, thinking that whatever they can get away with, whatever they want to do and say and whatever. So let's start doing that. Tell your friends, encourage them. Let's get more people out there. There's plenty of people out there that think like we do. If more of us speak up, this thing it might not turn around, but it'll come out differently. Okay, and we will be weakening the enemy for when the big fight comes. So, you all have a good day. I'm going to go do something else, and I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.